Guys, there is another topic which although is not directly the part of the metabolism, but still it is very important to learn about it, and that is cellular signaling. Why it is important and how it is linked with the metabolism is that your cells are not living in isolation in a place where they are not connected with any environment. आपके सेल बॉडी में हैं और उनको हर लहजा किसी न किसी तरह से डिफरेंट तरह के एनवायरनमेंट का वास्ता है. They are interacting all the time with the environment. There are all sorts of molecules, all sorts of factors which are interacting with these cells. So, cells have to respond, and that response is very much needed for the proper occurrence of metabolic pathways. Metabolic pathways भी तो cells के अंदर ही हो रहे हैं ना, और हमने बारहा देखा कि कब आपको एटीपी की ज़रूरत होती है, कब आपको एटीपी की ज़रूरत नहीं होती, कब आपको फलां रिएक्शन तेज़ होना चाहिए, कब कम होना चाहिए, कब ईटीसी को चलना चाहिए, कब नहीं ज़्यादा चलना चाहिए. रेगुलेशन की हमने बारहा बात की. सो व्हाई? बिकॉज this is very much needed, the regulation is needed. So, cell have to have a signaling way, cell have to really devise a way to interact with that environment, and that is what is cell signaling all about. The interaction of cell with itself and with the environment, and then make the adjustments accordingly. It regulates metabolism. The cells, as I have told, sense the changes in the metabolites which are going to be part of the metabolism. It leads to cell signaling, which leads to the transduction of the signaling. It leads to the translation of all sorts of proteins and epigenetic modifications also, that also leads to, at the end of the day, the expression of different RNAs and then translation of different proteins, which will be involved in the metabolism process. Then regulation of the signals which our cell is receiving, and then on the basis of that regulation, the regulation of the gene expression, that all is part of the cell signaling manifestation, cell signaling phenomena. The signals can be external, as internal. I have told you, cell interacts with the internal environment and with the external environment. There can be, for instance, hormones which can be produced by cell itself, or they can be produced by other cells which are in the vicinity of cells, or very far away cells which are moving towards your cell of interest through the bloodstream. Then there are stress factors, then there are mechanical signals also, there are photo signals, all sorts of signals, signals of feeling. You feel hunger, that also generates a signal. So, cell gets stimulated through a very integrated way of integrated system of molecules that give rise to the whole process of cell signaling. Then a very important part of cellular signaling, the receptors. The receptors are the structure which connect cells with the outer environment. That is why the receptors are embedded into the cell membranes. The receptor, there is a great, you should always keep in mind that sensitivity and specificity is one of the biggest feature of receptors and the signaling coming out of those receptors. So, it is not possible that one receptors which can bind with all sort of ligands, ligands are the proteins which bind with the receptors, or they cannot be ligands which binds with all sort of receptors. Specificity is one of the major feature of signal transduction, cell signaling through receptors. So, we can then just give a picture of the signal transduction pathways. We can divide into certain components. The uppermost component is the, for instance, if we show you here, the uppermost component consists of the receptor. It receives the signal and cell gets stimulated. From here the signal goes down to different molecules and signal is transduced. Transduced means the signal may be in chemical nature, may be of photon nature, may be of electric nature, may be of mechanical nature, but after transduction through the receptor and the molecules which are on the downstream to the receptor, it will be then transduced into a chemical signal. So, that is transduction, and then there is a signaling cascade, that is more and more molecule amplification of the molecules takes place, which will take part in that cell signaling. And finally, there are the effector molecules which can be certain cytoskeletal proteins, which can be your skin, which can be regulation of certain genes, and so on and so forth. So, things you should remember about cell signaling: it is a complex interplay of receptor and signaling molecule which give rise to signaling cascade. It responds to whatever your cells receive from the environment in terms of a signal. It may be, for instance, a signal of the energy to overcome the need of the energy, then cell signaling will really act or will be initiated. It consists of receptor and ligand interaction, which should be very specific. I have told you external and internal environment leads to the stimulation of cells. Signal has to be transduced. I have told you what is meant by transduction. And finally, keep in mind that cell does this not only for cellular signaling to produce signals, it is related with metabolism. Metabolism depend, the occurrence and maintenance and regulation of metabolism depend upon the cellular signaling. If cell is not responding to the environment, Krebs cycle or glycolysis will not take place.